Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the helmet for a little bit. I will probably do a follow-up video where I actually show you the process in person, but for this video I just wanted to discuss the tools and materials that I used to build the helmet. And here you can see a foam helmet that I made a while ago. It's clearly not finished in certain areas and it's not painted, but it should be a good representation of what a foam helmet would look like. I did not make a template for it because it is the same template as the Pepakura helmet. The foam helmet is very flexible, whereas my Pepakura helmet is solid as a rock. Originally, I made this foam helmet first, but then I scrapped the idea because I didn't like the way it was turning out. The dome part of the helmet just doesn't look right, and the back part of the helmet was a little off thanks to the thickness of the foam throwing off my calculations. While EVA foam is a great material for cosplay, it is not perfect. The flexible abilities of the EVA foam are really helpful in some situations, but not for detail work, which is why I chose to make it out of Pepakura in the end. I had to use smaller foam in this helmet build, but the more thin the foam is, the less stable it will be, and this helmet is very flexible, very bendy, and you might want that, but I didn't. I wanted it to stay in one shape the whole time I wore it. If you do decide to make a helmet out of foam, just make sure you get the face and the teeth part right. That is the part that everybody looks at first, and that is probably the most important part of the costume. That's why I chose to do my helmet out of Pepakura, because I knew it was going to be the part that everyone looked at first, so I wanted to make it the best looking part. Foam costumes are always great because of how light they are. They're not very heavy, and they're pretty comfortable too, since the foam is flexible. But as I've stated before, you do not want to use foam if you intend to make a very detailed piece of armor. You can see here when I look at the dome section, it's pretty rough. I could probably fix it pretty easily, but it would just take a long time, and I didn't feel like putting any more work into this. I will compare the foam dome to my Pepakura dome, and you can see pretty clearly how smooth the Pepakura file dome is. Just due to the flexibleness of the foam, it would be very hard to make a dome smooth in foam form because it obviously needs to flex, and putting any sort of hard wall spackling on the foam to cover up the seam lines would not work very well. It would pop off the minute you tried to flex the foam. So here's what a Pepakura file looks like when you've printed it out and folded it up together. It's just paper that's been folded in certain areas to create a shape and then glued together. I'll probably make another video about Pepakura specifically, but this is what Pepakura looks like in its raw form. It is very fragile since it's literally just glued together pieces of paper, so you can't just wear this as a costume. You will need to harden it and then fix any imperfections with spackling or wall putty. And now we'll take a look at the materials real quick. First up is the liquid plastic that I used to harden the Pepakura file. You basically pour on this liquid resin and it hardens over time. This is the one that I used. It's called Smoothcast 65D. There's other ones out there, but this is what I used. And here is a video. I will link it, but this is basically what I did to make my Pepakura helmet. Be sure to go watch that video if you want more information. I will probably end up doing one on my own sooner or later, so be on the lookout for that. If you are younger than 18, please don't use liquid resin on your own, as it's pretty messy and very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. There's several warning labels all over the plastic resin kits, so I recommend reading those if you want more information for like safety reasons. But if you are going to print off some Pepakura sheets and then fold them and put them together, here's some of the stuff that you will need. What I used to attach the paper together is just a glue stick. Everybody probably has one of those lying around. They're pretty cheap. And after that, I just taped all the pieces together with some simple tape, and then you would put the plastic resin onto the paper model. But after that step, once the resin had hardened, you would put on some spackling like the one I had here. While the resin hardens the inside, the spackling will cover the outside of the piece that everyone sees, and that will make the details pop out more once you sand it down and make everything smooth like I did with my helmet. And of course afterwards you would just paint it. If you wanted to make a foam helmet like the one I have here, you would use contact cement to glue the edges together. Contact cement is another one of those dangerous tools, so I would not recommend it if you are under 18. If you are under 18, then I would recommend using hot glue, as that is much less dangerous, although it can still burn you. So you have to be careful no matter what you do. Real quick, I will show you what the helmet Pepakura file looks like. Once again, I did not make this file. It was made by somebody else who did not put their name on the file. So thank you to that person. But this is basically what Pepakura looks like. It's just a program that converts 3D objects into 2D printable paper. And all you have to do is cut out the shapes that you see here and then glue them together to get a Pepakura build. For the rest of this video, I wanted to go over the Greebles page that I have on my free templates. Greebles are just little tiny details on armor pieces that make it more complicated looking. The first piece that we'll look at is the mouthpiece for the helmet. On the Pepakura file, there is no teeth that are marked into the file, so you'll need to use mine. If you change the scale of the helmet in Pepakura, then you'll also need to change the scale of these teeth pieces, just a heads up. Next up is this little chin piece. As you can see, it is rounded on the helmet, but that's kind of hard to do on paper, so be sure to round it when you make it. And next up we'll look at the vent caps that are on the front of the helmet. There's obviously two of them. The base of these caps is a thicker foam, maybe 5mm, and the little button on the top is just 2mm foam. Now for the earpieces on both sides of the helmet, this is just a little strip of 2mm foam with some grooves in it. I would paint them before you glue them on, just to make it easier. And here we can see this little rectangle. It goes on the back of the helmet. It's pretty simple. Next up is the pieces for the back armor, and this will tie into the chest armor tutorial that I did a while ago. It's pretty simple, just 5 rectangles and 4 circles that are painted gray and then glued onto the back armor. You can look at my armor piece for reference if you need to. But lastly, on the Greebles page, we have the helmet fin. This was a pretty tricky piece to glue in place. I glued it on just by eye. There was no real indication on the Pepakura file where the fin should go, so I had to eyeball it most of the time. But you can look at my helmet for reference if you need to, just if you want to know where to place the fin. It is made up of a 2mm foam in the middle and about 4mm foam on the edges. So that's about all I had for this video. Like I said before, I'll probably do another video in the future going over how to use Pepakura and how to use the plastic resin method to make Pepakura stronger. If you have questions other than the helmet, feel free to watch my Q&A video that I just did, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. Bye guys.